My name is Jitin. I'll be your uh, facilitator for this particular session. Right. Thank you very much, guys, for joining us today. Thank you very much for giving your valuable time. Just allow me one moment. Let me share my screen and let's get going with this Az-500 session. Right. Just give me one moment. Okay, well, I'll be sharing my screen. Let me give a brief introduction about myself. Right. Absolutely. It is related to Az-500. I will be giving you, like, see, I have unmuted everyone, guys. I will be giving you time at the end of the session that you can have your queries. So I'll give you ample amount of time to ask your questions and your answers. But we will do that activity probably at the end of the session. Right? So in the meantime, let me show you a few things. And by the time I show you a few things, so my name is Jitin. I'm a Microsoft certified trainer. I have like more than 12 years of technical experience. I am trained in some Azure technologies and with some on-premise technologies. The Azure technologies that I handle are like I take care of Azure fundamentals, Azure administration, Azure security, Azure architect and designing, Azure DevOps. I take care of identity. Uh, there is a course called as Ac500 which talks specifically about the identity. Then I also take care of Intune. I also take care of modern desktops. I also takes care of some cases in Office 365. Then I'm also trained in some on-premise technologies like Windows Server Active Directory, on-premise networking, PowerShell. So these are few technologies where I'm trained for. In this particular session, we will specifically talk about Az-500, how the course is designed, what we would be covering in that particular course, and how that course enables you, right? And how that course enables you to get some. Manish will be sharing my screen in a moment. In a moment, I'll be sharing this. Then how that course enables you to understand the Azure security in a good aspect. That is what we will be covering in this particular course. And then I will also give you the contact number of the gentleman who would be able to help you out with the further onboarding process. So we will be covering all those details in this particular course. Now, let me share my screen here and let me show you the course content. And then I will give you a small session, like how actual training is going to be. So maybe I'll give you a gist about how the actual training is going to be. Although in actual training, there will be less number of participants. We'll try to keep the batch small. And you can have good amount of time to ask your questions and your answers. So that will be the agenda for today. So let me share my screen now and let's get going. So first of all, this Az-500, this course is regarding the Microsoft Azure Security Technologies. It's a, like when we do a corporate training, it's a 4-day activity. 4-day activity, when we say 4-day activity means every day we spend like 8 hours together in training. Right? So if I say 4-day activity, every day somewhere we spend around 32 hours in this particular training. There are good number of labs in this particular training. Right? Now let me share my screen and let me first show you the course content. Since I've shared my screen, hope all of you are able to see it. Maybe if you can put a message in the chat window, that would be helpful. Okay. Thank you for confirming. Wonderful. So this is Az500, Microsoft Azure Security Technologies. So now this will be the course agenda, what we will be covering in this particular course. So in this particular course, we talks about managing identity and access. Now, what is identity? So whenever any person joins an organization, let's say if I will be joining, let's say Facebook today. So Facebook will provide me an identity. Maybe that identity could be like Jitin at facebook.com. Right? So that will be the identity Facebook will provide me today. If I join a different organization, let's say after 1 year from now, let's say I join Google, Google will give me an identity, maybe Jitin at google.com. So what is identity, how we would be able to manage identity, and what kind of an access we would like to give? I'm sure you would have seen in the organization that every person does not have access to everything. There are few person who can manage other identities, other users. There are few person who manage databases. There are few people who manage networks. So basically different kind of access, different identity has got. So we talk about identity and access. So if I talk about specifically, we talk about Azure Active Directory, what is on-premise Active Directory, how can we integrate Azure AD with on-premise AD, what is Azure AD Connect tool, what are the different ways by which we would be able to secure the identities, how can we enable multi-factor authentication, how can we enable identity protection, what is PIM, privilege identity management, right? So we talked about all that. So that is what we try to cover in module. In module 2, we try to talk about implementing platform protection. So when we say implementing platform protection means, now if we will be creating servers, if we will be creating machines in Azure, before we do that, we first need to create a network. So how do we create network in Azure? How we would be able to create network in Azure? After creating a network in Azure, how we would be able to secure that network? How can we implement host security? How can we implement platform security? How can we enhance the security of a subscription? So we will talk about all that part. How can we connect networks? When we connect via point-to-site connectivity, how do we secure things? How can we make user certificates during that? So we completely talk about the network, securing the network, be it host network, be it host security, be it network security, be it platform security. We talk about all that security in module. Then when we jump towards module 3, so what do we cover in module 3? In module 3, we try to cover how can we secure data and applications. So how can we build applications? How can we build applications using infrastructure as a service? How can we build applications using platform as a service? Right? And when we are building all these things, right, how we would be able to secure the data, how we would be able to do the encryption of data at rest, encryption for data at transit. What is Azure Key Vault? What are the benefits of using Azure Key Vault? How can we do key management? How can we do secret management? How can we do certificate management? How can we secure the applications? So we talk about all this part in module. In module 4, we talk about configuring security services. How can we configure security policies using Azure Security Center, which we now call as Microsoft Defender for cloud, right? How can we respond and remediate to any security issues that we are facing? How can we create a baseline for security? How can we do the monitoring? How can we create alerts? So we talk about all this part in module 4. Now, what role a security engineer would be able to play? So usually security engineer implements security controls, maintains the security posture, identify and remediates vulnerabilities by using a variety of security tools. Their responsibility also includes protecting data, protecting applications, protecting the networks, managing identity and access, implementing threat protection, and responding to security incidents escalations. They also serve as a part of a larger team, which is dedicated for the cloud-based management. Security engineers start this role with experience on OS, virtualization, cloud infra, storage structures, and now, after the training, if you would like to appear for a certification, this is a percentage of questions you may expect during the certification. So from identity and access, you may expect during 20 to 25%. From platform protection, somewhere around 35 to 40%. From security operations, 15 to 20%. From secure data and applications, 30 to 35%. So this is the percentage of questions you may expect during certification. Right. Now here it is covered in detail. Like this is for module 1, managing identity and access. What we are going to cover in module 1. Now they have here given in detail. We'll talk about users, groups, directory groups, installing and configuring Azure AD Connect, PIM, Azure AD Tenant subscription. The same thing, but this time they have covered in detail. Right. So this is like the agenda of the particular course. Like this is what we are going to cover on that particular course. Okay. So Sairam, you can reach out to Amit for accessing this recording. So Amit is the right person who would be able to share this recording. At the end of the session, I will be giving you his phone number. So you can reach out to him maybe via call or maybe via WhatsApp, and he's the right person who can avail you the recording and who would be able to help you with the onboarding processes. Right? So all the sessions will be recorded and we will share the recording with all of you so that anyone who has missed the session or anyone who would like to do a revision probably can go with the revision session as well. Right? Now, guys, let me give you a gist that how the actual session is going to be. Maybe for 15-20 minutes, I can give you a gist how sessions are going to be. And after that, I will open the question and the answer round. Anyone who has any questions, probably they would be able to raise their hand and I would be able to unmute themselves. Right? I will unmute them so that they would be able to ask their questions. So let me give you a very basic idea, right? So today we will not talk about much into security because before we talk about security, we need to understand the concepts well. We need to understand the particular component well before we talk about that particular security of that component. So let me give you a very basic idea about the Azure. So first of all, what is Azure? See, Azure is nothing, it is a public cloud. Right? Azure is nothing, it's a public cloud. There are three types of cloud. One is what we call as private cloud, one is what we call as public cloud, and one is what we call as hybrid cloud. So Azure, AWS, Google, they are public cloud. Traditionally, organizations used to have their data centers, which we also refer as on-premises, on-prem in short. So organizations used to host their virtual machines, their networks, their databases, their applications, everything inside their own data center. But those data centers have some physical limitations. They have some physical limits, right? We can host only certain amount of resources inside a data center, right? If we have a data center in, let's say, somewhere in India, then we would not be able to host any application in US. So if we have to support a US-based client, it would not be an easy job for us, right? It would not be an easy job for us. So with public cloud coming into the picture, they give us a huge flexibility. They give us a flexibility that if in case we want to deploy something in India, we can do that. If we want to deploy something in US, we may do that. If we want to deploy something, let's say in Europe, in Middle East, China, Australia, wherever, we would be able to do that. So basically, Azure is nothing but a public cloud. What Azure has done, what Microsoft has done, Microsoft has deployed their data centers across the globe. They have deployed huge data centers across the globe. And we can simply go and use their data centers in order to deploy anything. So if I want to create a network, I can create the network in Azure. If I want to deploy virtual machines, I can deploy the virtual machines in Azure. If I want to create a SQL database, I can do that in Azure. So I don't have to procure any hardware now, right? It's already available with cloud provider and we can simply use that. So whenever we have any technology, we have some architectures for the technology as well. So Azure has got some architectures too. So if I talk about Azure architectures, so here if I talk about Azure architecture, Azure has got two types of architecture. One is physical architecture and one is logical architecture. So these are two types of architecture which is available with Azure. Now let's talk about the physical architecture first. So let's talk about the physical architecture. So in physical architecture, at the very top, we have got something called as regions. As we discussed a few minutes back, Azure has deployed data centers across the globe. Right? So if they have deployed data centers across the globe, they would have deployed data centers on some physical location. Let's say in India, they have deployed data centers in Mumbai. Mumbai is a city in India, right? So now what is region? Region is nothing but group of data centers. Right? Region is nothing for group of data centers. So group of data centers is referred group of data centers which are in close proximity with each other. Group of data centers which are in close proximity with each other is referred as one region. So let's say in India, in Mumbai, if Microsoft has deployed some data centers on a particular place, we can call it a region. We can give it a name. Maybe it could be Central India region, it could be South India region. Just give an example. So basically, what is region? Nothing but a physical location where Microsoft has deployed group of data centers which are in close proximity with each other. That is what we refer as region. Across the globe, Azure has got 60 plus regions, and they are constantly trying to increase their global presence. They are constantly trying to increase their global presence. Right? And they are providing services across 140 countries. So it is quite possible for one country, there can be multiple regions. For example, if I talk about US, there is a huge requirement in US. So in US, Microsoft has got multiple regions, right? So there can be multiple regions for one country. There can be one region for multiple countries. Both options are possible. So in one region, minimum we will have 2 data centers and maximum we can have multiple data centers. So minimum there will be 2 and maximum there could be multiple. The names of some regions are East US, West US, South India, UK South, right, etc., etc., etc. So we have got huge number of regions. So we have got huge number of regions. Now, if I further talk about the physical architecture, after regions there is something called as availability zones. Right? We just need to remember 3 things, 3 points regarding availability zone. Point number 1, we discussed we have got 60 plus regions. So point number 1 is all the regions do not contain availability zone. Out of 60 plus region, approximately around 22 regions contain availability zone, approximately, right? Somewhere around 20-22 region contains availability zone. So point number 1 is out of 60 plus regions, all the regions do not contain availability zone. Point number 2, any region that contain availability zone will have 3 zones. It will have zone 1, zone 2, and zone 3. Now question is, how will we come to know that which region contain availability zone and which region do not contain availability zone? So I can share a URL with all of you. If you simply go to that URL, you can easily figure it out that which region contain availability zone and which region do not contain availability zone. Right? So I'm sharing this URL in the chat window. If you simply open this URL, you can easily figure it out that which region contain availability zone and which region does not contain availability zone. It clearly says Microsoft documentation, Azure services that support availability zones. So if we scroll it down, these are the names of the regions which contain availability zone. So as we discussed, out of 60, approximately 20-22 region contains availability zone. So you can check out those regions which contain availability zone. Now East US is in the list. East US is one of the region which contain availability zone. So point number 2 is any region that contain availability zone, it will have 3 zones. So if East US is one of the region which contain availability zone, it will have 3 zones: availability zone 1, availability zone 2, and availability zone 3. Availability zone 1, availability zone 2, and availability zone 3. So any region that contain availability zone will have 3 availability zones. Usually these 3 availability zones are separated to one another by a distance of around 10 to 15 miles. Right? Usually these zones are separated to one another by a distance of around 10 to 15 miles. In one availability zone, minimum we will have one data center and maximum we can have multiple. So they are separated to one another by a physical distance. Now, what's the benefit of availability zone? So point number 3, the benefit of availability zone is with the help of availability zone, we can achieve better redundancy. Better redundancy can be achieved. Right? So with the help of availability zone, we would be able to achieve better redundancy. After availability zones, we will have data centers. As we discussed, in every region, minimum we will have 2 data centers and maximum we can have multiple. So we will have data centers. And after data centers, in every data center, we will have racks. Now racks are nothing but the resources, right? Racks are nothing but the place where we actually host the resources. So in every data center, we will have multiple racks where we actually host the resources. So whenever I use a word called as resources, I'm trying to say virtual machine, database, virtual network, container, it could be a Kubernetes cluster, etc., etc., etc. There is a long list. So this is how the physical architecture of the Azure will look like. Now let's quickly talk about the logical architecture. So now if we would like to talk about logical architecture, in logical architecture, or before even we talk about logical architecture, what do we need? We need something called as Azure account. See, if I want to send an email to someone and I want to use the Gmail services, I need a Gmail account. Similarly, if I would like to use the Azure services, then what do I need? We need an Azure account. Now this Azure account, it could be my corporate account. If I'm working for Facebook, jitin@facebook.com could be my Azure account. It could be my personal account, jitin@outlook.com could be my Azure account. So we need to have an Azure account. There is something called as Azure Portal. So how can we log in with the Azure account? So we can go to Azure Portal. The URL is portal.azure.com. So if you go to portal.azure.com, you can log in with your Azure credentials. Right? Now, when we go to the Azure portal, when we log in with the Azure credentials, now the logical architecture starts. Now, if we want to deploy something, just because we have got the Azure account does not mean that we would be able to deploy something. We would be able to create the resources. So if we want to create the resources, we need to have something called as subscription. Right? We need to have something called as subscription. Without having a subscription, we cannot create a resource. Resource means virtual machine, database, virtual network, firewall. All these are resources. So without having a subscription, we would not be able to create a resource. In order to create a resource, subscription is mandatory. Subscription is a billing boundary as well. Means whatever resource we create inside a subscription, the billing of that resource goes into that particular subscription. It is also a billing boundary. After subscription, we get something called as resource group. Now, resource group is like a logical container which contains the metadata of the resources. Resource group is like a logical container which contains the metadata of the resources. So when we need to create a resource group, first of all, we need to have a subscription number 1. Then we need to have a name, whatever name you want to give to your resource group. So maybe I can give it a name RG1. You can give it a name RG for HR, RG for marketing, RG for India, RG for Delhi, right? Whatever naming convention you want to use, RG for client number 1. So we need to give it a name. And then finally, we have to define the region, in which region I would like to create this resource. So in physical architecture, a few minutes back we discussed, we have got a lot of regions. 60 plus regions. So this physical architecture and this logical architecture, it goes hand in hand. Now I would like to create my resource group in which region. I can define it here. Let's say I would like to create this in East US region, right? So we would be able to create the resource. And then finally, we can create a resource. Finally, we would be able to create a resource. So when we will be creating a resource, let's say I would like to create a virtual machine. In order to create a resource, subscription is mandatory. We need to have a subscription. In order to create a resource group is also mandatory. We have RG1, which is in East US. And then we can give the name to a resource. So if I'm trying to create a virtual machine, what is the name I would like to give? Let's say I would give it a name VM number 1. And then I have to decide the region, in which region I would like to create this resource. Now question is, I am creating this VM number 1 inside RG number 1. RG number 1 is in East US. Why is it asking me for the region here? It clearly means the region of the resource group and the region of the resource may or may not be same. I may have this VM number 1 in the same region as a region of a resource group in the East US region. I may have it in a different region. I can put that in South India regions, right? So usually the recommendation is region of a resource group and region of a resource should be same. But if in case there is a business requirement and if we would like to put that into a different region, that is also possible. If we would like to put that into a different region, that is also possible. This is how the logical architecture looks like. Now we have one more hierarchy above the subscription. The hierarchy that we have above the subscription is something which we call as management group. Right? So we have management group, which is above the subscription. So what can we achieve with the help of management group? So majorly we can achieve two things. One is we can apply the policies at scale. And second is we can manage multiple subscriptions. So we can apply policies at scale and we would be able to manage multiple subscriptions. So when we say apply policies at scale, see, we cannot be available everywhere. So if we want some compliance to be achieved, if we want to achieve some governance into our infrastructure, we want our infrastructure to be compliant, we can achieve that with the help of policies. And when we say here policies, I am not referring to group policies. If we talk about on-premise, in on-premise, we have a concept of group policy. But if I talk about Azure, in Azure, there is no concept of group policy. So we have something called as Azure policies. So in on-premise, we have group policy. In Azure, we have something called as Azure policies. Second is with the help of management group, we can manage multiple subscription. Let's say if I have multiple subscription, we can manage multiple subscription with the help of this management. So this is how the logical architecture of the Azure will look like, right? This is how the logical architecture of the Azure will look. Okay. All right, I just wanted to give you some insight, like, right? So I just explained the very basic part of Azure. So when we will be going during the actual training, we will be doing things in more detailed manner. We'll be going in a very, very detailed manner. So these things we will try to achieve it practically as well. Like I will show you how to create a resource group. Then what is a resource group? What is availability sets, availability zones? We'll go into a very, very deep level, right? And I will be taking all your questions as well, then and there. Okay, so now I would like to give time to all of you, right? So those whosoever has any questions, any queries, request you all to please raise your hand. Maybe you can just raise your hand one by one. I can unmute you and maybe you can go ahead with your questions. Right? I'm sure you people have some questions. So request you all to please go one by one. Please raise your hand and we can have a discussion around with your queries. Any questions, guys? Anyone has any questions, queries so far? Okay.
Yeah, hello.
Yes, Madhu, please go ahead.
Yeah, are you able to hear me, right?
Yeah, I can hear you. Please go.
Yeah, by learning this Az-500, are we able to get, are we able to get the job? I mean, only for learning Az-500.
Absolutely. See, nowadays, if you see, Azure is the is a not only the fastest growing cloud. Azure is the cloud which holds the major share in the market. And if you check any website, like any website which talks about jobs, maybe LinkedIn, maybe Naukri.com, or maybe any website that you refer, so there will be a lot of positions for the Azure, right? So by learning this course, which all positions you can apply for the cloud engineer, you can apply for the security engineer. So you would be able to apply for the same. And if you do the training well, and whatever assignments will be given during this training, so I will be giving you some sort of a labs to complete. If you will be completing those labs well, and if you will be reading about the documents well, then you can definitely apply for the interview and you can definitely grab a job. That would not be a challenge.
Okay. I completed the Microsoft. I attended the Microsoft training already, Az-500 security training, which already Microsoft conducted directly. So for that only, for seeing that content and this one, there are so many things you need to cover. Some they mentioned, so they are covered so many things actually.
Okay, so which all things you feel is missing here? Anything that you feel?
I didn't remember because there are so many things. Most of the maximum things you are covering, but even few of the things you need to cover. I think there are something
Madhu,
I'm.
I don't think so. See, the content that I showed you, it's a Microsoft content. So even I deliver a lot of trainings for Microsoft as well, right? So be it ESI batches, be it T4H batches. So there are different kind of batches that Microsoft runs. So I have delivered a lot of trainings for Microsoft. So the content I have downloaded only from the Microsoft Download Center. So whether it's me, whether it is any other trainer, if they are going or they are training this particular course, they all be covering the same content, right? Maybe the training style could be different, but the content will remain the same.
Style means nothing. They every day they used to cover a theoretical part and then they will start the labs. First,
Mhm.
initially, they will explain the lab scenarios like this, suppose AD and all right. Simply,
Mhm.
or else they will, if they will take key vault means they will go to that Azure labs and just they will do the sample and they ask to give, they are giving the lab access and they ask to do it from our side.
So as I mentioned, training style could be different. So that could be the training style of a particular trainer. So my training style could be different. So what I usually do, I will explain you the concept well. Once the concept will be explained, I will show you the demonstration. I will personally do the lab for all of you so that you can see me doing the lab. And once we have done the lab together, once I have demonstrated the lab, then as a homework activity, I will be giving you a lab link and will be asking you guys to perform the lab. So while you will be performing the lab, if you come across any questions, next day I'll be helping you to resolve your queries. So that is the
How many
approach
days
we follow.
duration this training?
Yeah, it now it depends whether you opt for a weekend batch or for a weekday batch, right? In weekdays we run like it for 2 hours every weekend, Saturday and Sunday, 2 hours each. In weekdays we run for 1 hour every day because participants are working as well. See, so usually this training will take somewhere in between 15 to 20 hours because we would not be taking any breaks. There will be no lab times during the session. We will be giving you lab time once the session is over. So around 15 to 20 hours, we will be able to cover up this training.
Okay. How much you are charging?
Yeah, I think Amit is the right guy. So here, I hope you can see his contact details. So here the contact details of the
My
gentleman.
doubt is after completing the training, am I able to eligible for the teaching job trial? That is the main thing. I have almost all 6 years of experience. I have already almost all 6 years experience. Currently, I'm working in Azure some platform only, but I'm mainly looking into security side.
So I think that's a good course. That will basically enable you to learn the security side of Azure, right? It is specifically designed for the security engineers.
Okay. how much I mean I don't have any security experience, right? How much I can manage it up to after completion of your training, everything. Can I able to manage it for 2 years of security?
See, Madhu, it entirely depends. See, it's a very vague question, I would say. See, after I will be training you, how much time you are spending. See, whatever we
Ah,
have learned. Yeah,
that's the
please.
reason first I initially
Let
I mentioned.
yeah, let me
Okay.
finish. Madhu, let me finish. So
Mm,
let's say I have trained you for 1 hour. Now, whether you are going back and you are studying for 2 hours or 3 hours, how that is something which I would not be able to judge. So if I am teaching you for 1 hour, whatever I'm teaching you for 1 hour, you are supposed to revise that, and then you need to spend around 2 to 3 hours every day. So let's say if you
okay.
are not getting time every day, maybe let's say after we have done 4 or 5 sessions, during the weekend you would be able to spend some time, right? Or let's say once the training is over, then also you can spend time every day, like 2 hours every day. So if you will be spending times on your self study as well, in training I can make you understand the concept. In training I can demonstrate you the labs. In training I can guide you from where you can read things. In training I can guide you from where you can do labs. Now how much effort you put in your self studies, that will basically bring you up. When I say that, that will basically bring you up. Now based upon that, you may show that you have an experience of 1 year or 3 years. So that will vary from participant to participant, right? So I would say the hard work will be the key to the success. That will be the key to the success for your interview. So it entirely depends how much efforts you are going to put, right? From my side, I will not leave any stone unturned, right? Whatever guidance you want, whatever practical exposure you want, whatever queries you have, I will try to answer it then and there. But how much efforts you are putting it, now it entirely depends upon you, right? Hope you got the answer. Okay. I think other people also have some questions, so let me
Okay.
unmute.
Are you going to
Yeah. Yes, go ahead.
structure we
Please go ahead. I think you were saying something. Pawan, I'm unmuting you. Please unmute yourself.
Yeah, hi Jatin, how are you?
I'm good. I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing good, thank you. Yeah, actually, I have a very basic question. Actually, I have a expertise in MDI and MDCA, Defender for Cloud Apps and CAS. So I'm pretty confused because that what is the difference between AZ500 and MS500? So this is my basic.
MS500, MS500 is for Microsoft Office security.
Okay, that
AZ500
is
talks about the Azure security.
okay. So Defender for Cloud Apps comes under AZ500 and Office 365 Cloud App Security comes under um, MS500, if I'm not wrong.
Absolutely correct.
Hello?
Absolutely correct. Am I audible?
Yeah, yes, you are.
Absolutely correct, sir.
Okay. So basically, we will cover the same, right? Here in this Azure Security Center or Defender for Cloud or Defender for Endpoint or MIP or DLP, these
What do you mean by MIP here?
Microsoft Information Protection,
Okay, so
which covers labeling part, publishing labeling, labels, and DLP, data loss prevention.
okay, see, MIP is not a part of this course. So
Okay.
identity protection will be covering, Defender will be covering, right?
Mhm.
That part will be covering, but MIP and DLP is not a part of this course.
Okay.
But if you want, I can
Understood.
just give you a gist of it. That is basically we are covering in two courses. One is SC200 and one is MS600. Sorry, MS500.
Okay. Okay. Understood.
But yeah, as I
Understood.
mentioned, I can give you a gist of it. That is what
Okay. And what about Defender for Cloud Apps?
Defender for cloud apps we will be covering.
Okay. 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 Thank you so much. That's all I wanted to know. Thank you.
Rahul, I'm unmuting you. Please go ahead.
Yeah, hi Jatin. Am I audible?
Yeah, you're audible, Rahul. Please go ahead.
So my question is, let's say earlier to this, I have done 104 training. That was a Microsoft ESI training. So after that training, we have got the coupon for the examination.
I think the training would have been arranged by your corporate. Am I correct?
Yes, yes.
Okay, so your question is, are you going to get the coupon here?
Right. Exactly. Sir. Will I
The
get it,
answer,
or
no.
that will
The
be a
answer
charge?
is no. The answer is no. Reason being, there your corporate has a partnership with Microsoft, right?
Okay.
Maybe your organization is a Microsoft partner in some way, or some sort of an agreement is there between Microsoft and your organization. That's the reason you were able to enroll yourself for the ESI training. But here, since you are not coming by ESI, you would not be getting any free voucher.
Okay, Jatin. So that was my question. Thank you.
Okay, Vijay, I'm unmuting you. Please go ahead with your question.
Hi, I have a question. Like the Microsoft is going to change all the topics with the Az500 and all these things as per the latest news. Do you have any idea about it? And also, what is the SC differences currently with AZ?
What is the SC? Like which SC? There are different courses in SC.
SC300 plus AZ500 first topics.
Okay, see, in there are certain topics which are same in SC300 and AZ500. SC300 talks more about the identity side of it, right? The focus is more towards the identity part. On the other hand, AZ500, the SC300 is Microsoft Identity and Access Administrator. You will become Microsoft Identity and Access Administrator. So they are focused more towards the identity part of it. How can you do identity management? How can you do authentication and access management? How can you do implementing identity governance, access management for applications? So main focus is towards the identity part, access part, authentication part, authorization part, security of it, governance of it. AZ500 talks about the security of multiple things. Talks about the security of identities, talks about the security of host, network level security, SQL database security, Key Vault, right? Azure Defender. It talks about different things. So these are entirely two different courses. Some part is same, some part of the identity is same, but in total, actually two different courses. Hope that answers your query. Does it answer your query, gentlemen? There is someone showing with the name 371EB0DB. I'm unmuting you. Please go ahead with your question. Hey, Kumar Saurabh, I'm unmuting you. Please go ahead with your question.
Yeah, hi Jitin. Very good
Hi.
evening.
Good evening, sir.
Jitin, thank you for this session. Just want to ask one thing. You have shown the weightage of percentage for identity, for SOC and platform protection and all. Like, is it exact weightage or it may vary?
It may vary. See, it says 20 to 25%, so it may vary. There can be some variation.
Okay, there could be some variations, right? And see, what could be the prerequisites for this? Like, if we are appearing for AZ500 before
There
this,
are no prerequisites. See,
okay, directly we can enroll for
directly
this.
you can appear for it. Optional is AZ900. If you have AZ900, it's optional, but that's not a prerequisite. If you have not done that, that's still low.
Okay, Jitin, thank you. I just want to ask Jitin, like Azure is services from Microsoft. This service is from Microsoft, AWS from Amazon, like same GCP from Google. So the things which we will prepare here, is it relates with AWS and GCP in any way?
See, in almost everywhere they are same. It is just that the names will be different. It's more like, let me give you a very layman example. Let's say McDonald's is giving you a burger. Same is given by the Burger King, right? The names of the burger could be different. So you might be eating veg burger or non-veg burger. The name will be different in McDonald's. The name will be different in Burger King. But
approach
actual
will be same, right?
Approach will be same. Approach will be same. See, in Azure you call it as a virtual machine, Azure virtual machine. In Amazon, you create a virtual machine, you give it a name EC2 instance. Right?
Yeah.
So names of the services will be different. In the backend, they are going to do the same.
Perfect.
the interface will be different, right?
Okay.
There will be some differences. Interface will be different. Ways to access them will be different, but actually the services are same.
Great. Awesome. Awesome, Jitin. Thanks again for this session and all the answers.
All right, guys. So I'm showing you the slide. See, that's the name of the gentleman. So, Joy, yes, absolutely. You can complete the course and you will be ready for the jobs as well. Absolutely. You may do that. So if you do the course well, you can definitely apply for cloud engineer, cloud security engineer. Now, there is no limit for any learning. After this as well, if you would like to go for more trainings, or after this, if you want to learn more, you may go with the Azure Architect, you may go with the Azure DevOps courses, right? So there is, the learning never stops. But yeah, after this particular course, if you do the course well, if you do the preparation well, you can apply for the jobs. Now, guys, here is the name of the gentleman. Amit is the name of the person who would be able to help you with the onboarding process, right? So we'll be starting soon. So he can help you out with all the recordings. He can help you out with the session timings. With the onboarding process, he would be able to help you. So the name of the gentleman is there. You may notice phone number as well. Right? So you can reach out to him and he would be able to help you out with the onboarding process. If you have any questions for me, please feel free to ask, or I'm just displaying his contact details over here. Reach out to him as soon as possible and you can book your slot and he will be able to help you with the onboarding process. I have shared his contact details in the chat window. Right, Shekhar, I'm unmuting you. Please go ahead with your question.
Hello. Hi, Hamid. Hi, Jit. This is Rajshekhar. Yeah.
Please tell me, sir.
Yeah. Actually, I'm inviting you. So may I know what is the purpose of this? Actually, just now I enrolling my
Okay, so
Zoom.
actually we discussed regarding the Az500 course. So what
Okay.
topics we cover on that Az500 is Azure Security training.
Mhm.
So what topics we cover in the training, how we will do the training. So if you have like joined just now, I would request you, please make a note of this number. You can reach out to this gentleman. He can provide you today's recording. So you can go through the entire recording and then basically you will get an idea that what this training is all about, what are we going to cover in this training and how we will be discussing things when we will be doing the actual training. And he is the right guy who would be able to help you with the onboarding process as well for this particular
Hamid.
training.
Okay, Hamid, that is I receive a number also.
Yeah,
Okay.
just one number. Right?
Yeah.
Maybe you can take a picture of this screen and you can reach out. Okay, guys. Anyone else, guys? Any questions before we call it a day? All right. So I would thank you all for giving you a valuable time. Right? Have a good rest of the day. Take care. Stay safe. Please reach out to Ahmed and we will meet soon and we will take the trainings. Right? Thank you all. I'll be stopping the sharing of my screen. Thank you for giving your valuable time. Look forward to meeting you in future. Thank you.